Okay, hey y'all, welcome. It looks like anybody else who's coming is just going to be funneling in late. And yes, I have officially made our color of the day green because I just decided to, and I get to choose. So we have green water cup. We have, what else is green? I have a green notebook on my desk, so we can call that part of this. I have a green shirt on. I was just doing my calculus homework and a green binder. Oh, I have green scissors from doing an AP science lab, which required me to like literally cut and paste things. So that's where we are as a society now. And yeah, green is just it's a very green day today. Okay. I'm going to load up our slides, and they're on the link that I just sent in the chat to the Students Hub. And like I said, everything today is in green. So 1 second, I actually want to launch a poll to see what we want to do. So basically, we can just go through everything that like you've learned in AP Hug, and I can go through units 1 and 2 and then like briefly touch on 3 depending on how far you are. But basically we can just do like unit 1 review and Q&A. Like I want to try to hit most of this stuff, but it's just what do you want to do first? And then 1 second before I push this out. There we go. Okay, so I pushed out a poll and it's just like, what do you want to start with today? And I'll try to hit most of it. So just say in the chat if you want something like second choice or whatever. So it looks like everyone's voted and everybody wants unit 2 in some form or fashion. So that's what we're going to start with. And also, if you go to the Students Hub, once we get through a little bit of content here, we'll look at some FRQs and see if we can like write pieces of them together. And I set up something on our Students Hub for that. So 1 second for this to present, then I can share my screen. Interesting. This is not working. There we go. Fixed it. Amazing. I should like be teaching AP Computer Science A with these tech support skills. Okay. So unit 2, populations migration. Okay. So I actually don't have any content preloaded on these slides, but lucky for you guys, I have my slides from the Loom videos. So if anybody has not watched those yet, I think they're pretty fire if I do say so myself. Well, I also made them. So I'll just kind of look at the slides that I have the material in like a different perspective, just so like you get another take and you're getting some review before we work on. Okay, if you have any questions, just like ask them in the chat while I'm pulling this up. Like, please do. I have the chat pulled up right here if anybody has any unit 3 vocab questions is what it looks like. Okay. So unit 3, so we have population. I'm not even going to present these just because it's going to be so much simpler for us if I don't have to switch between tabs that are in like present mode. Actually, I can fix that because I'm running this show. Okay, so Hannah asks, what does centripetal and centrifugal mean while my slides are loading? So basically, centripetal is like pushing inwards, and I'll pull up a whiteboard real quick while this is loading.
Is it possible to just ask the question verbally, or do I have to write it?
No, you can ask questions verbally. I'll just answer Hannah's first, but feel free to ask, please. So for centripetal and centrifugal forces, this will work better with my camera on. Okay, so centripetal is kind of things that like push you together. It's things that unite you. By the way, you don't have to turn on camera if you don't want to. So like a centripetal force would be something like religion, like everyone in very hasty overgeneralization here, like everybody in France is Catholic and everybody in the United Kingdom is Protestant. Like that's something that you can see in like AP European history and maybe AP world history, like depending on what religion the country mainly supports in the Middle Ages, like the French are Catholics and they've always been known as Catholics and are still known as like a very Catholic country. So a centripetal force for them, a force that unites their country and brings them together, is religion because it's something that they can all like bond over and share. So for the UK, same thing. They have the Church of England, which is a church named after the country of England that they like, I guess the King of England, Henry VIII, literally founded the church so he could have his own official religion. So, he could get divorced from his wife, but not the important part here. Centrifugal forces are exactly the opposite. Centrifugal forces are things that push you apart. So these are things like war, poverty, political issues. So a centrifugal force in the United States is the two-party system. You are either, especially in today's climate, you are either Republican or you are a Democrat or you are nothing. And if you don't support exactly these like 5 points of this ideology, if you don't support this, it's very polarizing. And another centrifugal force that's common is like war. Like war is not good. Not a lot of people like war. I mean, yes, but no. War pulls countries apart, like Iran, Iraq, Syria. The Muslim, what is the word I'm thinking of? I don't know. ISIS and Al Qaeda, Afghanistan. They believe that there is a fifth pillar of Islam to where they must spread the religion of Islam with the rest of the world and make sure everybody in the world converts to Islam. It's something that starts with an H that I'm forgetting that's like kind of important, but they believe that the Quran says that, and Quran is the holy book of Islam, by the way. But most Islamic people, like the very vast majority, do not support that same ideology and that same thought process. So it's something that like holds that religion apart, and it's something that like makes people in that religion like not come together. It's the opposite of centripetal. So in this very long-winded and very long explanation, centripetal is pushing something together and uniting something, and centrifugal is doing the opposite and pulling it apart. If you've ever taken a class like AP Physics, you talk about centripetal and centrifugal forces in terms of like actual like things in circular motion. Like a centripetal force is pushing you towards the center of the circle, centrifugal force is pushing you away from the center of the circle. Fun fact, you can use the same thing in an AP Hug social science class that you do in AP Physics. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I'm like doing a language thing, and so it's like the country, and then there's an article about like the languages in there. So like the first one is Belgium, and they're talking about how like the north speaks mostly Dutch and the south speaks mostly French. I think that's the way it works. So it'd be centrifugal
Yes.
because they're contradicting, right?
Yeah, like it's Wallonia, I think it is, that the country divides itself to where, yeah, it is the north half that speaks the language that I can't remember the name of in the south that speaks France. Like they're very divided on that issue and they have like separate governments. And when you get into Unit 4, you'll learn about things like federal and unitary systems that help to combat that. Great question, Hannah. Christina, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, because currently we're doing stages in my classroom, and our teacher showed us a question earlier, but no one knew how to do it. So she wants us like to answer it tomorrow, but I still am confused about it because it just basically, it shows a stage 4 graph of a male population and a female population, but it's asking for its concern, but it doesn't show anything other than just the population.
Okay, do you want to share your screen and show me?
Sure.
Okay, here, I'll stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen. I just saw that in the chat, Hannah, while Christina's sharing her screen. I actually took AP Computer Science Principles, and I am very qualified to speak on it, so maybe I am a better teacher than your teacher.
We don't do anything in that class. The varsity football coach teaches it.
Okay, I'll give Christina a second to share her screen, and then I'll help.
Sorry, because apparently when you're using your phone, you can't physically share your screen. You have to take a photo and share that.
Oh.
Yeah, so I took a photo. Okay. Okay, so the question is basically which is most likely a bigger concern for the countries represented in the pyramid than for the countries in order DTM stages. What does DTM mean? That's the question I'm also having.
So DTM is the demographic transition model, and it's just basically the thing that like says as a country progresses through the stages of development, they go through these stages where like in stage 2, your death rate drops, and in stage 3, your birth rate drops. Then in stage 5, you have a negative rate of natural increase. And that's like a very simplified definition. If you don't know what that is yet, that's going to be super confusing, and I'm sorry, but basically it's just like you go through these stages of development in a country.
Yeah,
Okay, let's see.
I'm assuming it's a stage 4, but stage 4 connects to like low birth rates and low death rates, but I don't know how does that even relate to like employment or government?
Yeah, okay. So you're on the right track there with like there are low death rates and there's a lot of old people in this graph. Like the majority of the population is in the age bracket 65 to 69. Now, I think later in your unit you'll talk about an aging population and the consequences of that. So basically, people work from ages 18 to 65 generally because 60, 65-ish is like retirement age in developed countries especially like USA, France, UK, Germany, England. I'm just naming random European and Western countries. So basically, people will retire at age 65. So if you think of the state of Florida, you have a lot of really old people because a lot of people will buy retirement homes in Florida and just like live there after they're done working. And so they'll have a lot of people who are age 65 plus, and they'll have consequences of something called an aging population. And so this graph isn't generally showing an aging population because you still have a lot of people in the category 40 to 44 and also in 45 to 49. But what you're not seeing is you're not seeing a lot of people in the category from like children. So you're not seeing a lot of 0 to 19. And that's like 0 to 18. That's when you're a child and that's when you go to school and stuff. So let's see. Let's see what we can eliminate first. So greater demand for government spending on education and daycare for children. So do you think that that's right or wrong?
It would be because there's more elderly.
Okay. So I'm not sure I agree there because what I'm thinking for B is that wait, were you talking about A or B?
A.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I think I agree with A, so I'm going to keep that answer for right now. I'm sorry. I was talking about B. So B I think can definitely be out because there's like not a lot of children, so the government doesn't need to subsidize it. C says a higher rate of unemployment among people working age. So C, I definitely don't agree with because a population pyramid doesn't show you unemployment rates of a country. So you're trying to infer something that's not there. D says a higher rate of immigration. So again, this graph doesn't show anything about immigration or immigration. It doesn't show you what the natural rate of increase is versus immigration. So I would be wary of picking answer C or D since those aren't shown in the graph. And then E is a faster overall population growth than in previous decades. So people might be tempted to pick this answer because it's like it's a developed country, so they're going to have good population growth, right? Well, yes and no, but mainly no. So this country will have some population growth because, like I said, there are a lot of people in the age bracket from 40 to 49, but that is when women are ending the fertile stages of their life. Me, the only man, talking to a stream of a lot of women. Okay, moving on. So, women and men have like fertile periods in their life when they have babies and they have children. And as you can see, our country is not having a lot of children, but we still have a lot of people who are able to have children. And we have a lot of elderly people. And if you know anything about elderly people, they can't really biologically have children. So E is probably gonna be out. Like it's probably gonna we're gonna have to vote it out because you're not gonna have a lot of population growth since there's no evidence for that in the chart. Like people are having less babies because it's curving inward like this to where we have a lot of old people here and then it's like bottoming out. So I would go with A. Do you see how I got there?
Yeah, but I'm also curious, how does the population growth be smaller at the bottom where they're younger, but then it increases at the top? Like, is that from the past generation added on with the new one?
Yes. So basically, when people are born in a country or when they immigrate at a young age, they're like, that's all the children in a country. And basically all the elderly in a country are like, there are a lot of elderly people. And you can have this for a few reasons. One, in China, you're going to see a lot of people, like not a lot of people in the age bracket from 30 to like 55 because of the one child policy, just like some historical things, like really specific examples that you don't need to know. Germany also has a very low population of children because it's mostly old people because of things from World War II and the Cold War in West and East Germany. Another historical thing you don't need to know the specifics of. And then also countries that just have a lot of old people for no reason, like not Norwegian, Norway, Sweden, Finland, the Nordic countries. There we go. That's a word. So like countries like Finland and Sweden don't have a lot of young people. They have a lot of old people just because they do. And so when you're looking at a population pyramid, you just need to see that like there's a lot of old people here. There's not a lot of young people here. That means we have an aging population. So A would be the answer.
Wait, so would that mean in the future there would be a decrease in the general populations because technically this new generation has younger kids, so the elderlies will be like a smaller?
Yes, perfect. Like, period. Exactly. So when the old people die, you're losing a big chunk of your population. So there aren't as many people to have as many babies. And I don't know if you watched, I think it was my stream, a long time ago where I talked about total fertility rate. And basically you need a fertility rate of like 2 to 2.1 to maintain your population because it takes two people to have a baby. So those two people, when they die, they need to be replaced so we can have the same steady population.
But doesn't that show there's an increase for women more than men though?
I can see where you're seeing that, yes, but also it's like negligible because none of these we're looking at this population pyramid, and if it would show a really big difference between them if that was a good answer choice. And there's not really an answer choice in here about men versus women anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
multiple choice questions will really emphasize what they want to show you. Like they're showing you 2% of young people and like 4.8% of old people. And that's like, it's not a big difference in terms of numbers. Like that's not a big number. But in terms of percentage, when you have like 100 age brackets, it is a big number. Like it is a big difference.
Okay, but in general, how would you know what a graph is saying? Like this question, the graph never showed anything about these things. How would you, like, are you supposed to just use your knowledge and assume?
Yep. So basically, it says pensions and healthcare for the elderly. So like you're just seeing, okay, so there's a greater demand of things for elderly people. Are there a lot of elderly people on this graph? Yes. And then you look at B, a greater demand for things for children. Are there a lot of children? No. So there's not really going to be a greater demand. C, does the thing show unemployment? No. D, does the thing show immigration or emigration? No. Does the thing show a faster overall population growth? It shows you population growth, but it doesn't show a faster population growth.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna look at the Unit 2 FRQ since we just spent some time looking at some content review for Unit 2. Then I'll get out of this. Also, you don't have to have your mic unmuted if you don't want to. Okay, here we go. So Unit 2, populations and migration. Okay, so basically, I just want to look at an FRQ together. So I want to first look at this one. It's like a population migration combo FRQ. So it says it closed. That was interesting. Okay. So it says define, so it's like looking at this graph of like selected refugee populations by country of origin. Define the term refugee is the first part of this question. So generally in AP Hug FRQs, there's like a really standard format. Let me see if I can get to a blankish slide right here so I can write it out. Okay, let me pick the color white. Okay, so generally A is going to say like define some vocab word, or it's going to give you a definition and it's going to ask you to identify the vocab word. So it's going to be defining some vocab word. B is going to be describe the vocab word above, but you're going to describe it with something. If my pen could draw. Oh crap, is my computer going to shut down? Yes, it is. Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So I have been having technology issues all day today, and it has just decided to come hit me in my stream. I know I was watching something, the 8 push office hours with Thomasina earlier, and she can attest that I was in and out like 17 times. Okay, so basically what I was talking about was the standard AP Hug FRQ format. Well, I can see if my computer Wi-Fi can restart. So part A is going to be defining or like identifying some vocab word based on a definition, or you're just going to give them the definition. Usually it's pretty easy and it's worth like 1 point. Your second part B, is usually going to be a describe this vocab word, but in this situation. So it's going to ask you to say like, so it's like define the term refugees on that slide. You can still look at the slides, even though I'm not presenting them because they should be on the AP Hug Students Hub. So define this word in terms of like people from Afghanistan. So we're looking at defining refugees, but then we're looking at like describe why refugees are coming from Afghanistan. And then in part C, it's going to ask us to explain something. So it's going to say, how does this stimulus relate to the word refugee? And you're going to have to talk about how, well, these countries have experiencing a refugee crisis because of the Syrian war and the war on terror. This FRQ is from like 2008, by the way, or something, when like Al-Qaeda was still prevalent. And basically you'll have to say like, yes. Like basically just yes. Okay, I'm going to see if I can rejoin on my computer now. I'll be right back. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So while I'm pulling up my slides, I'm going to continue saying what I was like discussing about FRQs. So when we're looking at those FRQs, there's really a format that we just talked about that you're going to see on a lot of AP Hug FRQs, like if you're not looking at even all of them. Okay. So I'm actually going to drop this link in the chat and we should be able to edit this together. There's an edit button in the top right corner, I think. You might have to have a Notion account. I'm not sure on that one, sorry. But if you can and you do, that's awesome. And then we can work on this together. because we're all here together right now. So why would you like write something or work on something alone when we could, you know, collaboratively do it and learn something together? Okay, here we go. So on this page, I will set up our responses. I hope that you guys can edit this along with me. If you can't, please let me know. Yep, it looks like you guys can edit this. And then, so this one says, in recent years, the number of refugees has been increasing. Define the term refugee. So this one is just a definition word. Usually most teachers teach this definition with the migration unit, but it's also part of the like population-ish unit. So I'm gonna put the actual FRQ on that Notion page in case you don't wanna look at my screen share anymore. And I'm gonna stop screen sharing so we can just look at the Notion page together, pull it up. So define the term refugee. So I would say a refugee is a person who flees their home country, fear of persecution or harm, and is looking to live in a new country that they deem to be desirable. Okay, so basically I just said, this is the definition of a refugee. And if I Google the word refugee, what's going to come up? It's going to say a person who has been forced to leave their home country in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disaster going to a new country. So I basically hit all the right dots there. So that one for us is going to be worth, I'm going to comment like what points we get and what points we don't. 1 out of 1 point. So B, discuss one political, one social, and one environmental reason why refugees flee their country of origin. So generally, they don't use the word discuss on the AP exam anymore. Don't ask me why. They just kind of always use describe now. So does anyone like want to work on like one of these three? And I'll take one, you know, we have 4 people here. So if 2 people want to do like
Do
one.
one of them. I don't
Okay.
know if they're which one.
You know what? You can take political. And if you have seen my stream from earlier from like unit 1, or no, it was a Loom video. When I talked about political, you can talk about governments, you can talk about things like conflicts, fights, you know, everything in that nature. I'll do social and then someone else can do environmental where I can pick it up.
What if for environmental, wouldn't it be because of all the smoke? Like if it's from knowledge, all these places have like many bombing and their environment isn't like safe place for like children. So I doubt parents would want their kids to stay there, so they would want to flee the place.
Yes, that's right, Christina. So you could talk about mainly what they're getting at here is pollution and then describe pollution a little bit. So you could say you don't actually have to take any of the countries in this chart. Those are just there to help guide your examples until you get to part C. So in part B, you could say like, yes, there's air pollution here. Air pollution could cause a refugee to flee their country of origin. Air pollution can cause health issues, including lung problems like asthma if too much pollution is inhaled. Like, I'm not using very many sciencey words here. Like, I'm just trying to keep it like super basic because AP Human Geography is not a science class until you get to Unit 5. Okay, and then you could just say air pollution can come from bombings like by terror groups, like in the country shown in the graphic. And that definitely earns you a point. So Hannah, if you can, and like you have anything more to say, or like you can give a quick example or define it a little bit more, that would even strengthen your answer more, but you're definitely on the right track there. And I'm going to finish up social right now. I think we're writing about the same thing, so I'm going to pick something different. Pick. So let me read. Hannah, as a refugee, would leave their home country because of a new government system that taking over that discriminates against their religion. For example, if a Jewish government leader rises to power and expresses their dislikes for Christian, as a Christian, it makes sense to flee. So you had a good description there. That definitely answered the question. You definitely got the point there. And mine, so I always write a lot on FRQs because I just think really fast and I have a lot of things to say. So I end up repeating myself accidentally. But nonetheless, I think that it's always better to write like one sentence more than you think you need to in case you say something wrong and you like, you want to still earn the point. Because what if you write 2 sentences and you say something wrong in one of your sentences? Well, then you're not really giving us enough context to answer the question. I'm not a person who loves to like throw, okay, for describe, write 3 sentences, for discuss, write 2 to 3, for explain, write 4. Like, that's not what I want to shove down your throat. It's more like, make sure you get enough information on the page to where somebody is convinced that you know that this is a social reason and this relates to refugees. So for social, a refugee would flee their country of origin due to persecution of their nationality, race being discriminated against. For example, people in South Africa were discriminated against and segregated against during the apartheid period, where white people considered themselves superior to blacks and the real owners of the land. These black people could flee their home country, South Africa, to go somewhere else. I also tried to work in the definition of refugee there at the end, just to like affirm my point, like saying this is a refugee, even though I didn't need to. Like, just because, like I said, I'm a little extra. And I'm sure this one update is just like me making comments on this. Okay. There we go. Okay, so part C. Using the chart shown, select a country of origin, then identify and explain one reason why refugees have left the country. So, TBH, I wouldn't recommend repeating yourself here, but good thing we haven't used the one major example that a lot of people throw up at this graphic when they first see it. Hint, the war on terror. So does anybody like just want to give me, pick a country from this graph, and then give me one reason why they would leave the country, and then we can write about it together. Thomasina, I haven't heard from you in a while. Pick a country and give me a reason. Using the chat is fine too. Okay, Thomasina, so it looks like you private messaged me. Okay, so you picked Afghanistan. It has the most number of refugees, so good choice. And you also said, I'm sorry, the chat just closed on me. You said, okay, terrorism. Okay, perfect. So we have an identify and we have a describe. So I'm just gonna like open a bullet point to plan it right here and say like, Afghanistan. Can I spell? Maybe. And then right here, I know, because I brought this up 17 bajillion times since I've been talking, because apparently I love to talk about this, Al-Qaeda and the war on terror. You know, great use of thinking about my words, Thomasina. I also cannot spell. You are so smart, Thomasina. Okay, so I could say, also, when you're writing FRQs, good practice is just to like kind of repeat what the question's asking. So like when I wrote my social response, I said a refugee would flee their country of origin due to blank, just because I want to make sure that the reader knows like that I'm fully addressing the question and like I'm not just writing what I don't know about and like hoping it relates to the prompt. Okay, so I could say one reason that refugees would have left Afghanistan. I'm clearly identifying a country here. Is for fear of terrorism by groups like Al-Qaeda. Can I spell it this time? Yes, I can. No, I cannot. So my notifications are going crazy right now, so give me 1 second to turn those off. I'm so sorry. A person might flee the country if they do not identify with the Muslim religion, like being a Christian, and feeling like they are discriminated / persecuted. And Grammarly does not like that I do not spell words correctly. So that's why we have this. So they're being discriminated, persecuted against. Terror groups in Afghanistan have shown their might in global and in their home country of Afghanistan. And TBH, like in an English essay, I would now repeat the words Afghanistan 3 times in this many sentences. And I discriminated, persecuted, home country, refugees, flee. Like I try to use these buzzwords as many times in an AP Human FRQ, just to like make sure like the reader knows like, hey, I got it. You're talking about terrorism. You're talking about Afghanistan. You're talking about refugees fleeing. Like, I get it, dude. You get the point. Like, that's what you want to do to your reader. You want to make sure that they like are like, whoa, okay, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. So I would give myself a 2 out of 2 points here. And this one is worth 2 points because I never actually explained the point system here. See, it says identify and explain. So explains generally will like have 1 to 2 points on them, depending on how in depth the question is. But since this one says identify and explain, it's definitely worth 2 points. And then for part B, I don't actually know the scoring, but generally AP likes to say like if you have to give 1 blank, 1 blank, and 1 blank, each of those is 1 point. And it's 1 point for identifying and describing. Okay, and now we're to the last question, which got cut off apparently. So we're going to try to take up another picture of that. So it actually just says D, explain 2 economic impacts. That a refugee So generally on your AP exam, you will see things literally laid out like this. The task verb will be bolded. This is from an old AP exam where they don't use the same format. Your task verb, which is like explain, identify, describe, discuss, define, etc., will be bolded. The word 1, 2, 3, 17 will be capitalized, but I'm sure you will not have to write 17 reasons. And then economic, social, political, sometimes they like to italicize them, sometimes they don't. It depends. And when you get your FRQ and you see this question, I want you to underline the word receiving country, because so many, like, I think I only know like one person who's now like in their like, they're like 31 years old now or something when they took this exam their senior year of high school. When they wrote about this, they wrote about explain 2 economic impacts that a refugee can have on one of these countries. But these countries in the graphic are the countries that they're leaving. So you want to make sure you're fully like reading the question and answering it. So I want you to underline receiving country to make sure you're writing about a receiving country. Now you're gonna have to come up with those on your own, unlike the rest of the questions where you could have used any of those countries. But this one, you can't use those countries anymore. Like I actually chose to use South Africa just because I was like, this is a better example that I can write more about. But I totally did not have to. I could have written about those countries and I could have come up with plenty of reasons. Like I could say Iraq, Syria, women's rights. I could say women might feel persecuted against just because of their gender. For Somalia, I could say pirates have become an issue. I could think of like a ton of things in those countries. For Sudan, for political, I could write about the civil war in Sudan, which was going on at the time this FRQ was written, actually. For Afghanistan, I could talk about environmental, which is what we talked about there. So you can definitely pull from those countries in your responses. You just don't have to here. So now back to doing what we were actually doing. So 1, 2. Okay. So does anybody want to name any economic impacts? Chat or unmuting is fine. Also, after the stream is done, I'll send you guys a link to this page. Like just so you can review the FRQ responses again. And the slides are always linked in the, what's it called? The AP Hug Students Hub. There we go. Does anybody have any ideas? If nobody has any ideas, I'll come up with one. Oh, I have an idea.
Wouldn't one for economic would be the increase in guns and like smoke bombs, because that's what causes most of the problem.
Okay. So see, I have a good one in the chat from Hannah that I'll write out in a second. But Christina, what you said was impacts on these countries like Afghanistan that are getting bombed, that like the refugees are fleeing. But we're talking about the receiving countries now. Like people from Iraq might flee to Germany or France. People from Sudan might flee to Egypt or Israel. People from Afghanistan may flee to China or India. So we're thinking about the impact on those countries and not the countries in the chart right here.
Oh, then wouldn't there be an increase in the economy for like the food stores, jobs, and anything like in general for that country?
Yes. Okay. So Hannah said something similar, but I can break this up. So so we can talk about, for number 1, we can talk about government having to support immigrants financially. Lower unemployment rates due to more people willing to work. Because generally, if you're migrating somewhere, you're not just going to plop yourself down and say, like, I am here now. Like, no. Like, what? Like, you're not just going to sit yourself down and just, like, travel halfway across the world to do nothing. Okay, so 2 economic impacts that a refugee can have on a receiving country. So government having to support immigrants financially would be like immigrants in terms of like taxes and stuff. If anybody can come up with a better reason, which I know you can because this one's like super weak, give me something else. So here, when more people of ages that migrate due to Robinstein's laws, something I also covered in a, what's it called? You know, Loom video, one of the replay 15 minutes with Fiveable, due to Robinstein's laws of people of employment age migrating more often. More people migrate. There will then be more people to fill jobs. Okay. We're actually going to turn number 1 around. So I'm just going to write this one really quickly. When people they will then have to pay taxes in a country. When they shop at stores, they might have to pay forms of sales tax or taxes on property - land that they buy, and even taxes on the money they make in the country. This will stimulate the economy. I'm just saying that because it's a buzzword. Like, I really honestly cannot define what it means right now for you unless I really thought about it. My AP macro econ are not like, my AP macro econ skills are not on point right now. Paying the government taxes so they have money in the country. Money, money, money. Mr. Krabs. Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to say yes, that got my point because I clearly identified what I was talking about and it like kind of at least made sense. So boom, we got full points on this FRQ. Let's go, guys. So again, I will directly paste this link in the channel, but it's also always on the Students Hub because I can click through here. This is the link that you guys have in the channel. It's the channel topic and it's also in this stream chat. If you click right here, Q&A, the green stuff. Actually, when the stream's over, I'll move right now. It'll be under past live streams. Then it'll be replay info. Also, if you haven't noticed yet, I love to use emojis on everything. And I'm sure we will get the replay uploaded soon. You know what, we'll just keep it green. Boom. Okay. So now it'll be in your live stream info under past live streams, what we wrote this FRQ on, and these slides with a little more like intro to culture stuff that I can like talk about right now if you want me to. But I am totally free to take any questions or talk about a little bit of Unit 3 stuff. Or we can just like stop now if you're ready. Like that's totally fine.
We can do the third chapter or like FRQs for chapter 2, like more.
So that's the only FRQ I had like prepared that like I totally looked over before the stream, and I also only have like 5 minutes before the account kicks me off. So that's a thing because we only have like one stream right now. So is there anything like I can quickly go over, like other questions? No? Okay, I have a few messages in chat. Great, amazing. Okay, so if you ever need me, I will be in Slack. I will always be in Slack. I will always be active on my phone. So make sure to DM me if you need anything, text in the AP Hug channel, and just like talk amongst yourself too. Like you guys can help each other, doesn't always have to be me. So have a great night, and I hope you enjoy this live stream.